Oh my goodness. I'm actually trying to watch a reel here, and I kid you not, this is like the fifth time. And essentially it's nothing that complicated. It's just a babe trying to show possibly three different dresses. And the weird thing is I can't see a difference between the three dresses, and I think the reason is because she's so incredibly gorgeous that I can barely see shit. But anyways, this is sort of besides the point. I wasn't actually even supposed to be discussing this. Well, granted, yes, I am supposed to talk about attraction, but it's more of the man-made kind because I feel like this one seems a little bit more influenced rather than it is, ingrown and developed from within. But before I can say anything about all of that, where my manners, I should have started with a proper intro. Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is Sir Denver B. This isn't your typical episode because I'm supposed to be on break, so this is one of the shorter ones that I just record so that, like I can talk about shit that I find interesting, but at the same time I don't feel like putting it on a full episode, but at the same time it's like just me being super introspective. And for those that aren't used to me doing this, I usually do this after every 12 weeks of me shooting out regular episodes with like a rant and like a beginning bit and like a main topic. This one's a little bit simpler, zero instrumentals, minimal editing, just trying to keep shit simple for the most part. Although I don't know if what I'm going to be talking about is going to be that simple. Well, granted it is attraction and it seems pretty straightforward, but this one's a little bit different. It's not the typical one that you'd probably say you're used to because I feel like this one's a little bit more man-made. Now, to kind of give a little context on the entire thing, so of late while I've been on IG and scrolling and like checking out the many different reels when you go down the rabbit hole and shit, I've been noticing a bit of a trend. And yes, you could say that it's the algorithm, but I'd like to think that it goes beyond that. And it's of women that are much older, dressing up super nicely, sometimes with a daughter, sometimes with a cousin or some shit. And then, they talk about their age and you're like, damn, shorty is so fine, she's so bloody gorgeous, but she's like a lot older than you'd expect. It's shorties who are like late 30s, early 40s, some in 60s, some in 50s, and you're like, how the hell is it that some of these older women are so fire? And I used to think that maybe it's just me that thinks this, maybe this is just a me thing because maybe I am a little bit more open and I don't mind an older woman, blah, blah, blah. But I'd go and I'd check the comments and I'd find that there's a ton of guys that are like, you, I definitely clap granny's cheeks or some shit like that. Like guys would be over there thirsting in the comment section. And at some point, I actually realized that maybe it's actually quite a number of guys that are actually falling for these older women. Now, of course, we've had that whole thing online where people are talking about how millennials are aging slower and they're looking great and Gen Zs look like they're aging fast and shit. And, maybe that could be the case. That was the original thing that I was thinking. You know what? Maybe it's just millennials and maybe a few Gen Xers that are super, super fire looking that, are making us feel some type of way whenever we look at how well they dress and how good they look. But the reality of it is I've noticed even more women, and a lot of guys are even talking about it, how there's a lot more women that are much older that are looking great. And it kind of started to bother me a little bit, because there's this entire bit of the internet, there's red pill dudes that are busy talking about, leave women who are above the age of 30, or like leave the old hags alone, they're used goods, they've been in the streets too long, they have a shit ton of body count, blah, blah. And, we should be avoiding them and we should be going for the younger women. But from what I'm seeing from a lot of guys that are my age, a little bit older and even younger, it seems like guys are liking quite a number of these older babes. And it seemed a little bit odd. And, I was thinking maybe this is just a me and a few guys thing. But at the same time, like, when you look at some of the comments on some of these videos where people are like, no one likes older women, you're finding there's older women commenting and they're like, I'm 40 and the people that are approaching me the most are guys who are like 22 to 25 years old. There's 50-year-old women that are busy talking about how they're being approached in droves by guys who are in their 20s, and a number of them are even in their early 20s, not even the late 20s. It's not even the 30 or the 40-year-olds that are approaching them. It's not even the 50 or the 60-year-olds. It's the younger guys. And that's actually one of the more interesting things because you'd expect that it would be the other way around. that the older guys would be looking for the younger babes, and the younger guys would be trying to retain the young babes and, also go for babes that could be a little bit younger, provided that they're not too young or, below the age of 18 or 20, depending on what it is that you like. And, it's not entirely the case. Of course, there are older guys that are going for young babes, but these younger guys are going for older babes. And that kind of did make me question what could be the cause of that. And after a bit of soul searching and not really finding a proper answer, I remember I stumbled onto the Pornhub statistics of 2023. And I usually tend to look at them year on year just to look at the porn trends and shit, because they actually do show quite a bit. And one of the things that I noticed was that the most trendy terms that are being searched for in Pornhub were MILF and mature. The stepmom category has received quite the boost. The MILF category has always been right there at the top. And all of a sudden, it kind of started to click in my mind that maybe we might actually be looking for older women because of porn. And I know it feels like a shot in the dark here, but let me cook for a bit and we'll see if maybe you might be on my side at the end of it. Okay? So let me try and put it like this. If you kind of think about it, from the guys who are in like the early 30s, going all the way back to kids who are in like the, late teens, early 20s and shit, we are the combination of generations that have had access to porn on the internet from a particularly young age. From most probably when we were teens, and at the latest probably from about 18 years old, but it could even stretch back as far back as like 13 to even 10 years old. We've had access to free online porn throughout this entire period of time, and we've checked it out in some way or another, from those of us that started way back in the day with like the WAP Chick and the WAP King days, all the way till like right now where people just grab a smartphone and just go to the site that they want. Like, we've had access to porn online, and we've had access to a shit ton of videos. And I can remember back when I was in my teens, when I would have access to porn, for research purposes, of course. One of the things that I used to see a lot was how people would normally go to the MILF category and look at the actors that were there and, like check out the videos. And guys would be talking about them every so often. And some of these actors, we've practically grown watching them from time to time. Not necessarily as a loyal follower per se, but a lot of us have grown up, checking out some of these actors. We've watched them grow and also age a little bit here and there. And whether or not they were classified as MILFs back then, there's a pretty good chance they're probably classified as MILFs right now. They might have even fallen into the mature and the cougar bits while all of that was happening. So as we've continued to, beat our meats to that, we've probably developed a certain attraction for women of that sort of look, because those are the ones that we familiarized ourselves with through porn back in the day. And over time, as we've stayed familiarizing ourselves with that caliber of woman, then maybe we've been attracted to that caliber of woman that is a little bit more mature, but looks a certain way, regardless of whether there's white hair or not. And by all means, I could be wrong about this, but even the Pornhub stats actually show that there's been an uptick in terms of MILF porn and mature porn. Because, and this is actually from the Pornhub statistic, I'm reading it word for word. So, according to the trends that define 2023, the number one trend was actually the golden age, which is mature porn. So it says, and I quote, "Topping this year's trends was mature porn. In 2023, the MILF category gained one spot to become the 5th most viewed category worldwide, and the mature category gained one spot to become the 7th most viewed worldwide, growing in popularity by 69%. Mature is now the 2nd most popular category amongst men and 5th for the women. For searches, mature grew by 77%, led by the terms mature cougar, mature anal, and mature amateur. There was also an increase in granny by 132%, with top terms being granny cougar, BBW granny, and sexy granny. GILF searches grew by 168%, topped by hot GILF, GILF anal, and GILF cream pie. Also, DILF grew by 71% in 2023 and daddy by 27%. The most popular DILF searches included hot DILF, DILF solo, and muscle DILF. And I'll just kind of end quote it there, because now the rest of it is talking about how in the US, MILF was the 2nd most popular category after hentai, and the gay searches and so on and so forth. Now, considering the people seem to be having a leaning towards mature pornography. You could say that it's because there are more mature women that are seemingly hotter today, or maybe it could be that a number of us are just really, really stuck to the same old actors that we're used to seeing, who are, as of right now, actual stars, porn stars, of course. And as a result, because we've grown with them, because we've grown a liking to them and their look, maybe we just seem to be leaning towards the older women because that's just the progression. Either way, the fact that people seem to be having a leaning towards the older women in a lustful manner does actually raise some serious questions, because yes, I know people might have been looking at it way back in the day and even right now as, it's just porn, it's nothing too serious. And, it's a MILF porn because MILFs are great. They have the nicest looking parts because they're big and, they're pretty proportional. But now that I think about it, maybe they've had a much bigger effect than we actually thought. Maybe we've been so influenced by MILF porn that we've actually gotten to the point where that's literally what we're now starting to like. Not that we went in there because the body or something of the sort. Like, now we're actually really just starting to feel attracted to the MILFs. Of which, at that point, now I don't even know whether we should be blaming the porn sites because they fed us a ton of this, or maybe we should be blaming ourselves because we started going in that direction. But damn, this probably raises more questions than answers, because is it that the porn influenced us, or is it that we're the ones that just seem to have a liking that's now being taken towards the porn? If the porn is the one that influenced us, are we the ones that are looking at this influence in the right manner, or is it way worse than what we thought? Like, there's definitely way more that needs to be looked into this, but to be very honest, I can't seem to blame anything else besides the fact that we used to watch MILF porn back in the day, and we're sticking to the same old people with the same kinds of bodies, even in today's current market. So maybe to conclude all of this, if we've been consuming porn for all of these years and it's affected us to the point where our interests in women have actually changed, we definitely need to start reanalyzing the kind of effects that porn have on guys. Of course, there's the gals and, like the LGBT and so on and so forth. But because the biggest consumers of porn online are usually guys, then I'd probably argue that we need to look at the guys a little bit more. Because if this is what MILF porn has done to us, then we've terribly underestimated the kind of influence and effect that porn has on people and their attractions to other people. Because if this is the case, imagine with the uptick of things like incest porn, such as the whole step family thing and like the sibling or the cousin type porn. Imagine the rise in LGBT porn, more so the transgender porn. Like, think of the kind of effects that that's going to have to the younger generation and even the current generation that's already been consuming that content. Like, we might actually be terribly underestimating the influence that porn has on us as a people, even though there's the understanding that porn influences life just the same way life has also been influencing porn. We might actually not realize it, but porn could have been influencing us way more than we actually thought initially. Although, then again, I might just be thinking about this entire thing wrong, but either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On IG, it is at the Breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the Breaktime Podcast. And on X, it is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.